Is he there? Oh. I'm not the host. Oh no. Well, maybe because the wind is changing.
So, welcome to our virtual candidates forum for the Suisun City Council race. I'm Alina Sessoms, the president of the Suisun City Youth Commission, a duty officer for the It's Your Move Chess Club, and a senior at Armiel High School. I'll be the moderator for our very first virtual candidates forum, and possibly the very first one in the US moderated by youth. Our Suisun City Library is hosting this event to allow voters to view the candidates and hear them address public interest questions. The goal is to enable voters to learn about each candidate and their standpoints in order to make informed decisions while voting. The Suisun Library never endorses or opposes any candidate or political party. There are 2 city council seats up for election this November. The 4 candidates are Tom Alder, Michael Hudson, Alma Hernandez, and Anthony Adams. The virtual candidates forum will last approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes. The candidates will be participating in a question-answer forum. I, the moderator, will read a question from the citizens of Suisun City. If I am unable to for any reason, the backup moderator, Miguel Joaquin Fornelos, will be prompting the questions. The order for answering the questions will be said right before, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Our timekeeper, Matthew Vickroy, will be keeping a close watch on time and will give a warning via the chat room 30 seconds before the clock runs out and then another one 10 seconds before. I ask that the candidates open and keep an eye on the chat room while answering questions in order to see these cues. If time permits, there will be a 3-minute closing statement at the end of the forum for each candidate. To be fair to all candidates and the audience, we ask that these limits be respected. We're also asking the audience to mute their mics and keep their cameras off, as well as refrain from typing in the chat. If needed, I will be forced to interrupt or individuals will be removed from the Zoom. Voters attending the virtual forum had the opportunity to submit questions to our suisunforum@gmail.com email address. The identity of the person asking the question is confidential. All items were screened by a neutral committee to ensure that the questions apply to all candidates, are not personal in nature, and are addressed to subjects relevant to this forum. Voters in Suisun City may vote for 2 city council candidates. The candidate receiving the most votes in November will join Suisun City City Council. The candidates have also been provided with the format and ground rules for tonight's forum via email and mailed to their home address via the US Postal Service. Before we begin with our candidate introductions, I'd like to introduce the audience to our distinguished host, Brian Bose. Next, meet our technical staff, which consists of Nancy Redfield, Michaela Walker, and 2 previously mentioned names and fellow Armiel seniors, Miguel Joaquin Fornelos and Matthew Vickroy. And last but not least, meet our screening panel, Michael Zayas and David Knott. Without further ado, we will begin our candidate introductions. Each candidate will be given a 3-minute introduction and will go in the following order: Tom Alder, Michael Hudson, Alma Hernandez, and lastly, Anthony Adams. So we please ask that Tom Alder unmutes his microphone and then gives his introduction.
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I thank you for your service in providing our community with the vital and valuable information that they need to know about what's going on in the community. I, Tom Alder, have served the city of Suisun. I've lived here for over 53 years. I've served half of my working time as the chief of police in the city of Suisun. My mission, my goals are for the citizens, for our youth. I don't want our city youth to be left with a burdensome deficit in the budget that they have to take care of. This is just not right. We need to balance our budget. And we need to get the priorities in to do that. It's very, very vital. And the youth, like I say, when I was the police chief, the youth were very, very important to me. You know, where's the PAL League now? Where are the police cadets? Where are programs that can help our youth by the police department or the fire department. We need to have that reinvented. That needs to come back into action. We've got to involve our youth in the community. It's vital because they are the upcoming leaders in our community. And my mission is to get ahead of the budget. We're now $2 to $5 million in the red. 2 years ago, we were in the black. So we need to make some readjustments. We need to look at ways to get revenues into the city and not put any more burdensome taxes on the city citizens. I employ you for what you are doing by the way of the youth program. I'm very appreciative of that. My kids both went through Omeo High School and were seniors, and I respect that very much. The citizens of my community or our community are very important to me. Like I say, I have dedicated my life to this city of over half a century, and I do not intend to let the city go down without any sort of a fight. Not a fight literally, but I mean in a fight with the budget, you know, and getting things back to order and focusing our direction on the city's history and the downtown and all areas of the city, but we can't let the downtown go. So anyway, thank you for listening to me. And again, I really appreciate you doing this for us and for our citizens. God bless.
Okay, and then next we have Michael Hudson. Tom Alter, may you mute your microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry, dear.
Good morning. I'm Mike Hudson. I'm pleased to speak with you this morning. Thank you so much for putting this on. Thank you to the Library Foundation. Thank you to the Youth Commission. And thank you for the citizens to participate and all the great questions that I'm sure we've received. I'm honored to be in with Anthony Adams and Alma Hernandez and Tom Alder, and I'm happy to be here. I hope this goes as smoothly as it looks like it's going to. What a great thing. I hope we are making history. So thank you. First, who I am. I'm Mike Hudson. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran from the submarine service. I have served for 10 and a half years in the Navy. Beyond that, I've served my city in the capacity of a city councilman for over 12 years. I've served in other capacities on different committees and different nonprofits. I'm a small business owner. I have a Main Street business. I've worked with a business improvement district on the waterfront down here to improve our businesses. And I'm also a contractor with the state of California. I work with the state on information security. What's important to me in Suisun City is that we have a balanced community, that we have the quality of life and the programs that will elevate our city. We need to take care of those things that are those people that are most vulnerable, our children and our seniors. We need to make sure that the quality of life for most of our people is pretty high. That means a safe environment. That means roads that pass the coffee test. In other words, you're not spilling coffee as you're going down the road because it's so bumpy. We need to have a safe community, and that's an important thing. Some of the issues that we're dealing with this time are, of course, the budget. That's the elephant in the room. They're $5 million. According to the June budget released by the city, we're $5 million in a structural deficit. It's proposed by the city that they're going to use Measure S to fill 3 million of that 5 million. And then the 2 million would be made up in some cuts, some pretty difficult cuts to the city. What those cuts will be is pretty important. We need to have a conversation about that. What's important to the city? But more than that, we should talk about Measure S. Measure S passed in 2017, 2016, 2017.
I hate
And
to interrupt, but your time is up. Okay, and then next we have Alma Hernandez.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alma Hernandez. I'm very excited to be here. It's so exciting to see many youth on this call and being able to host. I used to be a youth coordinator for many years and did a lot of youth ministry. So I'm very, very excited that this is taking place. I grew up in Suisun City. I moved here when I was 7 years old. I went to Suisun and Crescent Elementary schools. And let me tell you, to this day, I still have friends that I went to elementary school with, so I'm deeply rooted in our community and very much care about the future of our city. A little bit, I want to share what inspired me to run for Suisun City. So 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to volunteer for a local campaign that was taking place, and it gave me a chance to go and actually knock on people's doors and listen to people and really understand what their needs were, what their concerns are, as well as what their hopes are for our city. And I knew at that moment that I had something to give back to my community through the skills that I had attained at that moment and continue to build upon as well. And so one of the things that really inspired me was just to see the needs of our community residents and being able to elevate their voices. I currently serve as president of the Solano Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I have been serving on this board for the past 8 years. I have strong relationships with our small business community, both at local and at state level. I currently volunteer on the Suisun City Economic Pandemic Impact Citizens Advisory Committee, as well as the Climate and Environment Committee. These are two committees that mean a lot to me, as well as many other nonprofit organizations in Solano County. I've made it my mission to advocate for services and programs that our members in our community really need. A little bit about my professional background. I used to work as in healthcare administration, and so I had an opportunity to work with very vulnerable populations and have an understanding of what it means about cities being able to provide programs and services to help those most in need. I also used to consult school districts in the state of California. I specifically worked with the business department of school districts. So I used to consult superintendents, fiscal directors, and chief business officials on how to attain funding that they needed from the state. More importantly, what I did was help them think through strategic planning around how to remain financially healthy over a long period of time. So that's some of the skills that I bring as well. Listening to the needs of our budget, one of the things that I learned is we've been having some trouble since 2012. So this isn't something that's just happened, but something that we need to address about long-term sustainability. Most recently, I work at a nonprofit organization. I work with schools across the country, and I help design professional development conferences for school leaders. And so it's given me the opportunity to really bring forth what leadership means and what it means to be a local leader in that community that takes action, that works for the service of others, and works to continuously lift everyone's voices up. Thank you.
Okay, and then lastly, we have Anthony Adams.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Saturday morning, and thank you for spending this time on this important topic. So my name is Anthony Adams, and I'm running for Suisun City Council. I'm not originally from Suisun City. I moved here about 7 years ago. I'm originally from Southwest Louisiana, and moved out when I was 15 or so. I wanted to start a different life. Actually just visited California, and I noticed that there weren't cars on the front of blocks in the front of houses, and there were trees in the middle of streets, and there was transit and transportation, and not everybody worked at the refinery. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. Moved here when I was 16, put myself through school, been working since the age of 16, eventually earned 2 master's degrees from Cal Poly, one in city planning and one in engineering. I'm very lucky. I ended up getting the exact job that I wanted to get. I wanted to be a project manager and deliver multi-million-dollar projects to my community. I've always wanted to do a job that every decision I made and every ounce of work I did helped other people out. And I thought transportation was the best way to do that. Everything moves, energy, ideas, and people have to move. So I now work for Solano Transportation Authority. What that does is it gives me a really unique perspective into how government works and how projects are delivered. At that job, I helped develop projects, seek funding for, and then implement those projects. So when I came to Suisun City, I was appointed in 2019 after serving on the Parks and Recreation Commission for 4 years, eventually earning the position of chair. Since I've been on the commission in 2019, or the council in 2019, we've done quite a few things. We are action-oriented now and solutions-based. And the idea is we have to get partnerships here. Suisun City, as has been said before, we have budget issues, and we do not have the resources to do it ourselves. So we're looking for 21st century ideas. We want to look forward, not backwards. And I implore everybody who's listening here today to listen to the candidates and pay attention to the solutions they bring to the table and not just what they want out of Suisun City, because we have a lot of opportunity here, but a lot of challenges. You know, when I first got in, we actually did not even have a strategic plan for the city. We didn't have goals for the city or a timeline when we wanted to get that done. Now we do. Now we have a timeline and we have a way to pull ourselves out of this budget deficit. We're going to go into the budget a little bit more. I have some fantastic numbers for you guys to listen to and ways for us to get out of this. But we've made a lot of progress in the past 2 years, and I hope to move forward with all of you together. I hope we can partnership together with the state, region, and our local cities around to move Suisun City forward, and I hope we can all be a part of it together. Thank you.
Okay, now that we have finished the candidate introductions, we'll be going to the questions. We got a lot of questions submitted and not all of them will be asked. We picked the ones that were more prominent or the ones that were repeated. So if your question isn't asked, then that's why. The first question will have the following order: Tom Alder, Michael Hudson, Elmer Hernandez, and Anthony Adams. And the question is as follows: what makes you stand out from other candidates? Why should we trust you and vote for you? Tom, may you unmute your mic? You turned your video off as well. Tom, we are currently unable to see you or hear you. If you are able to, may you type in the chat so we know you're still here. If not, we'll rearrange the question order. Oh, okay.
Am I back on?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm having difficulty with the program. Yeah, Tom Alder here, and the question was, go ahead. I lost you in the last segment.
Oh, okay. What makes you stand out from other candidates? Why should we trust you and vote for you?
Okay, I was born and raised in England, and I was brought over here by my parents at the age of 16. And my goal in life was to help serve the people. And at the age of 18, I was drafted into the United States Army. And I went on to be a military policeman, spent 6 years with the Army. And then when I got out, I joined Suisun City Police Department. And at Suisun Police Department, we did have a strategic plan for the city. Indeed, we did. And I was on that strategic plan committee. And we did have future plans for this city all the way up through the 2000s. I went on after 38 years in law enforcement, primarily here at Suisun for 25 years. We did a lot. And we cleaned up a lot of areas that had severe crime, homicides, assaults, batteries, etc. And in 1993, when I left, we had a good solid city on the way up, towards a very good future. And so after that, I went on to be a therapist, and I went into the business of psychology, and I got my master's degree in psychology, and then I went on that from that to get a PhD in psychology, and I currently serve as a chaplain. I currently serve as a first responder therapist, and I'm a pastor. And thank you for your time.
Okay, Tom, may you unmute or mute your microphone?
Okay, hon.
You turned your video off, but your microphone is still on. Okay, next we have Michael Hudson.
Good morning. What makes me stand out, and why should you trust me? Those are great questions. First of all, I serve my community. I serve my community regardless of whether I'm in office or out of office. I've worked various nonprofits, especially homeless nonprofits, but also church nonprofits and other types of nonprofits for many, many years. I have a deep and abiding faith. I attend currently First Christian Church. I'm an Awana leader at First Christian Church. I'm happy to be part of that church. I have a get it done kind of attitude, and I don't just trust what people tell me. I look and I verify. I study the budget. I look at the budget. I see how things are. I see it's been said that your policy is your budget. What you spend money on tells me what's important to you. So when you look at a budget and how things are prioritized in a budget, you know what's important to that person or to that city or to that organization. And I look at how we spend money, how we get things done in the city, what's important to us. We did a survey in 2017 on the top priorities for the city. And those priorities included in the top 13, over 6 references to law enforcement and crime. Not public safety, law enforcement. And it was a big concern that we use Measure S dollars for that. And independently, we look at how we spend money to determine what's important to us. It's a very common way maybe of looking at things, but it's an honest way of looking at things. You can't say that something's important to you.
Oh, okay, next we have Alma Hernandez.
Thank you so much. What makes me different or that makes me stand out? I think one of the things that I bring to the table is just being a leader in our community. So I've been a longtime leader. I've been a youth leader. I graduated from Armio High School. I see a lot of the alumni here, so I'm very excited. And was able to help lead from a young standpoint, different initiatives in our community from fundraising for food and shelter for those who are most in need, to helping people access resources and services that they're so in need of today, to serving our community in such a way that helps elevate voices that are often not heard. For the last 3 years, I've been working as a special team in my organization that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that is really at the forefront of when we think about social economic disparity, especially when we're talking about budgets. When we think about our voices being heard, is everyone being represented? And are we creating inclusive programs and services and different policies that ensure that everyone has their needs being met? And it's one of the things that is at the forefront of how I make decisions. It's at the forefront of how I serve community and how I show up every day. One of the things most recently that I've been doing with this pandemic, I was helping our small businesses downtown get the resources that they needed, helping them fill out financial forms that were a little hard to understand to ensure that they had money to stay solvent throughout this time. Most recently, I'm helping, actually after this call, going to deliver food for those who are in need in our community, as well as being able to get our census count up, because that means more dollars to our community for finding ways to get money in. So it's something that is consistent. It's always at the forefront, and it's how I show up in everything that I do. And one of the things that I like to listen to is diverse perspectives. And it's one of my favorite things to gather voices to ensure that we make decisions that are inclusive of all. Thank you.
Okay, and then Anthony Adams.
Yes, thank you. And I want to say that that's something that does separate Alma and I is we do volunteer with the community. We're on the Suisun City Clean team and on the Suisun Climate and Environment Committee as well. And I will also be at that census pop-up as well. So, I mean, what separates me? It's my experience, my education, and my enthusiasm. I have experience delivering multi-million-dollar projects for regionally significant areas and programs. So I'm endorsed by virtually every mayor in all of Solano County and all of the supervisors. I'll let you know, I work for the Solano Transportation Authority, and my board is made up of all the mayors of all the cities. They've seen me in action. They know I'm capable, successful, and pragmatic in tackling large systemic issues. These issues that are countywide, issues that are too big for any one city to handle. And as has been said before, there's a lot of problems that Suisun City has that are a little too big for just us to handle. Homelessness being one of them, housing, transportation, economic development. These are things that we need help with and we need partnership with. So I know these partners, they know me, and I know how to get resources from people that have them, and I know how to put them together to have partnerships that benefit everybody. And you know, one of the things we do not have in Suisun City is a variety of housing types and a variety of job types. Most of the jobs that we have here are close to minimum wage. Most of the houses that we have here are single family homes or some apartments as well. We don't have townhomes. We don't have apartments that maybe some of the youth here, after you guys graduate college, are you thinking of moving into Suisun City and some of the nice, hip, cool housing that we have? Do you guys go downtown to spend your weekends? Probably not. So we have to bring Suisun City into the 21st century. Suisun City has to grow up. First, we have to recognize what we have as far as assets and what we have as far as opportunities. I know how to identify those and I know how to move them forward. And I'm looking forward to make Suisun City into the destination for the 21st century families and jobs in the Bay Area. Thank you.
Okay, and then Anthony Adams. Okay. So the following order for the next question will be Michael Hudson, Alma Hernandez, Anthony Adams, and Tom Alder. And the question is as follows. Once the health situation improves, how would you suggest implementing the next stages of the project in order to make Suisun City a destination which will draw visitors and businesses to our community and make Suisun more profitable in the future? Would that mean more developments, more businesses, more taxes, or something else?
I'm sorry, could you repeat part of that? It's kind of a long question and I'm trying to write it down.
Okay, so I'll start from the top. Once the health situation improves, how would you suggest implementing the next stages of the project in order to make Suisun City a destination which will draw in visitors and businesses to our community and make Suisun more profitable in the future? Would that mean more developments, more businesses, more taxes, or something else?
You know, that's a great question. I want to thank you for asking that. After the health crisis ends, I think to develop Suisun, to really hit the heights, we need to do some more development. We need to, first of all, though, for every piece of property that we have in Suisun City, there's a value. There's an amount of money that that property could produce for the city and could help the rest of the city. And we need to stop giving away property. We need to stop exempting certain businesses from paying for their fair share. And we need to move forward with aggressively recruiting businesses for our downtown, our waterfront, and the rest of Suisun. We cannot forget about the Sunset Plaza or out by Walmart or out by the other Railroad Avenue. You have to develop the whole city. Now, as a destination, the waterfront is a jewel that we need to do everything in our power to bring in new restaurants. And once we get a few more restaurants, we'll get more foot traffic. We have a couple derelict buildings. We are the largest slumlord in Solano County right now. We have a whole main street that the city mostly owns. And they're boarded up buildings and they don't make people feel safe. We have a problem with homelessness that we need to address. Raising taxes isn't going to help our business community. It's not going to help our citizens shop here. We need to figure out how to make do with what we have and invest in those things that will bring profit to the city. I think that that's vital. And once again, we can't do anything if we don't have a balanced budget. It's difficult. It makes the climb so much harder. Yes, you can get grants, but they all require matching, or they all require us to give up some sort of sovereignty.
Okay, and then Alma Hernandez.
This is a really great question. For me personally, local economic development is extremely important for our city. One of the things that I tell people when I try to describe Suisun City, I say, you can arrive to Suisun City by boat, by train, you can cycle here, you can walk over an overpass here, you can bus here, you can just drive your family here. There is so many ways and avenues to reach Suisun City. One of the things that is extremely important for us to be able to ensure that we're marketing our city in such a way that people in surrounding communities know what there is to do here, elevate the current businesses that we have. We have such diverse small restaurants in our area that is so important to elevate this, as well as specialty shops that we have as well. One of the things that is important to me is also looking at our current infrastructure, meaning that we have buildings that are currently standing kind of semi-vacant, that we want to be able to ensure that businesses that are looking for a place to locate we are on the map to ensure that they know that they can bring the revenue here. One of the other things that I think is important is to look for different ways to bring sustainable commercial buildings and to build here as well in a mindful way. And what that means is that we always have to be ready to show that we're a viable community to invest in. People look for places that are viable in such a way that they can bring in their business and then create jobs, elevate our economy so people don't have to commute every day far away and put their dollar somewhere else, but be able to invest in our community here as well. Another thing that I think is important is to continue to look at ways that we need to look for efficiencies in the way that we work as a city. So what are the things that we're doing that are not as efficient, and how can we improve internally so that we can make sure that we're doing something that is going to save us money and look at projects that are going to provide us revenue as well. So those are a couple of things that are important for us to continuously look at, but it's a multifaceted way to attain economic development and to uplift us financially. So it's all of those things that are inclusive and that continuously need to be worked.
Okay, and then next up, Anthony Adams.
All right, thank you for this great question. So, this is something we have to ask ourselves. Why, since the recession happened in 2012, is Suisun City the only city in all of Solano County that did not grow? Why are they the only ones whose budget did not expand during this great expansion after the recession? Fairfield, Vacaville, Dixon almost doubled in population, so did Rio Vista. But in Suisun City, we got a Walmart. So why is that? The answer is we did not plan for development. We did not have a specific plan for our downtown. It just got adopted a few years ago. Actually, Mike Hudson was still on council when it did, but it's a new thing. The 30-acre site did not have a specific plan. We haven't been working with the state to develop the train station. The state really likes transit-oriented development because people don't want to commute in the cars. We want to be able to take the train to San Francisco and Sacramento. Well, now we have a plan for it. Now we're working with developers. Now there's real movement towards projects. What was happening before, and someone who's currently in this debate right now used to be on the council, and I've heard him say before that housing is a loser. So even with the housing crisis that we have right now, the lack of housing variety that we have in Suisun City, we don't have people that have disposable income. There aren't people who are 25 or 30 working at Google living in Suisun City and then traveling by train, because we don't have the type of high quality development downtown that's going to want to make a business come to downtown. If you look at downtown Pleasant Hill, downtown Napa, what separates Suisun City from those nice places? It's quality. It's quality housing near destinations. So we have to identify the opportunities that we have in Suisun City. We have vacant parcels, we have a waterfront, and we have a train station. And we need housing variety and we need job variety. So we have all of the pieces here. What we have to do is plan it out, find some partners, get investment, and develop. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to the next few years in Suisun City because they're going to be exciting, and I hope you guys are all part of it. Thanks.
Okay, and then now Tom Alder. Your microphone isn't unmuted.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I enjoyed the speeches of my fellow humans there. And I would say about the strategic plan, there was a strategic plan in place. There was a budget in place, and there was growth in place. And, you know, they can say it's the redevelopment problem, but Mr. Adams has been on the council for 2 years, and the mayor has been on for 4 to 6 years. So we wonder what direction they're taking us in. The mayor's comments are that they need to take the priority away from Suisun, the main street and the downtown, and spread it around the other parts of the city. And I agree with that. But we have a great history here in Suisun. We have 150 plus years of history, and the waterfront is a big part of it. We don't need to put that in the background. We need to go ahead and like Mr. Adams says, we need to progress. We need to brighten up our downtown. It's great. You know, there's tons of stuff that can happen. Festivities, the boating, we can bring in canoes, we can bring in lots of business activity and commercial activity. I agree that we don't need a lot more housing. When it comes to the housing, we need more commercial. We don't need to change the zones from the business to low-cost housing. We don't need to do that. We need to get as much revenue in as we possibly can. I'm really interested in a balanced budget. I'm really interested in the kids and the parks and what we can provide for each and every one of our citizens. And downtown Suisun needs to be upgraded, and it needs to be put forth as a priority by the current staffing, which includes Mr. Adams. I would ask him what he.
Oh, your time was up. And so for the next question, the order will be Alma Hernandez, Anthony Adams, Tom Alder, and then Michael Hudson. And the question is, during the City of Suisun's financial emergency status and recent hiring freeze and reductions in the force, what are your intentions to support and assist the city's Public Works Department in keeping the City of Suisun maintained and clean now that there are fewer Public Works employees?
I think this is such an important question because it's so relevant for our time. One of the things that we are all facing is what we're all talking about, that we have a deficit in our budget, but we still have to be able to operate a city in such a way that it keeps our community safe, that it keeps drivers safe, that it keeps people employed, and continuously is looking for ways to be able to create efficiencies and then bring revenue in. I think one of the things with Public Works that's really important to understand is what its role is in our community, which is really vital, meaning that they do a lot of the maintenance, they do a lot of the things and a lot of the structural pieces in our community that sometimes we're not really aware of. But when we're talking about what we can do to continuously look for ways of, you know, because there's hiring freezes right now, at this time, we have to be able to work with the resources we have. And so looking at the current projects that we have taking place, looking at how we're maximizing the individuals that are working on those projects in the most efficient manner, looking at the ways that we are bringing in other resources. We can't just wait to see what will happen after the pandemic. We have to go looking for money right now. And one of the things that I really admire about our Public Works Department is just the way that they're continuously working, even under duress at this moment, that sometimes we don't even see. So one of the things that when you're talking about what we can do to continuously create efficiencies is just simply being aware of what their needs are, how much it's costing, what the project plan timelines are, understanding what it takes to be able to uplift those projects, and really looking at our budget and seeing what we need to prioritize. And then looking from prioritization to see what items can be maybe delayed in starting, if there's any at all, right? Just to see where we need to put our money and funding in at this time. So those are a couple of ideas in regards to what we need to do to address right now, while we're looking for grants, looking for funding, looking for organizations that are looking to invest into small communities, looking for programs that are looking to invest in roads and infrastructures in cities as well. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Anthony Adams.
So Public Works is a department that often gets overlooked because they're not flashy. They just fix things and make sure they're maintained. So I want to go over a list of things that Public Works does for us. They clean up homelessness camps. They do landscaping. They fix roads. They do electrical fixes. They improve our facilities, and they do sewer repairs. That's not even a full list of it. No, I was fortunate enough to meet with some Public Works staff just this past week. I actually went there for lunch and bought them lunch, and I wanted to talk to them about what they're working with and what things they need. You know, one of the things that came out of that is we found out there's some equipment that they need and some equipment that they have that they don't need. So with that conversation, I called up the Public Works Director of Solano County. They have quite a bit of equipment there. So just on that call, we got we're going to get the Public Works Director of Suisun City and Solano County talking. They're going to be able to share equipment. They're going to write an MOU so they can share equipment, because why, if equipment is sitting, it's already public money, we've already paid for it with tax dollars, why is it sitting when it could be used by another jurisdiction? The Suisun City residents don't stop at Suisun City. They travel into the county, they travel into other cities. So we should be making sure that we use all the resources we have instead of buying 8 different pieces of equipment for every city. Another thing that we're looking at is something called project bundling. So we have roads, again, you don't stop at Suisun City. So the roads that go into the county, the roads that also go into Fairfield, can we bundle these projects together so we get an economies of scale? Right now, we only get about $600,000 in road money. Fairfield gets about $4 million in road money. If you put that together, you're going to get a lot more roads for the amount of money if you put those together. So what are we going to do? I know it's lean right now. We got to get more money. We got to develop and get more tax revenue. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is utilize the partnerships and resources that are around us, be as efficient as possible, and more than anything, thank our Public Works on a daily basis for keeping this city running. Thank you.
Okay, and then Tom Alder.
I've been around the city for a long time, and I've observed the Public Works and what they do, and they're a great organization. And that they don't have adequate funding at this time. Therefore, they have laid off people, and they have not hired people. And like I say, they have a very special job to do in the city to keep it clean and updated, and keep it maintained as far as the roads and as far as the homeless and many other functions that they present. They're very relevant to what we need. And there is a deficit in the city. And as Mr. Adams would probably know, because he has recommended that Public Works that their budget be defunded, or should I say, after October, that positions be taken away from the Public Works. And that is something like a 30% decrease in the Public Works budget. So how can they go forward and you know, be efficient in handling their jobs when they're taking away stuff from that particular department? And, you know, we can talk about the fire and the police, and we see them as very important too, very important. And you have to look at the fact that, you know, 2 years ago, the mayor, vice mayor, and Mr. Adams decided that we needed to go from a voluntary department, the fire department, to a full-time fire department. And let me tell you, that has cost the city a lot of money. And now we're looking at basically defunding the police department by at least 7 personnel, which is crucial. I mean, it's devastating to me to hear that type of number that this council is proposing. We need action. Thank
And then lastly, we have Michael Hudson.
Question, what are we going to do with Public Works? Public Works is vital to the city. Remember, here's what a city has to do. A city has to provide safety for its citizens and services. And most of what a city does is paying for the safety and that services. That means police department, and that means also Public Works. That means going out and keeping the roads patched, all right? And one of the things that we learn from the budget, because we know that leaders are readers and readers are leaders, right? So we know that we read our budgets and we look at the priorities in that budget. And we know that right now we're not paying for all the services we should. In fact, Public Works recently came out and said that they have a $5.5 million requirement for road maintenance in Suisun City, of which we are only paying toward road maintenance $0.5 million. That's a $500,000. So that means each year we're incurring about a $5 million deficit in the condition of our street. That's things that affect people's quality of life. That is right where the rubber meets the road. If you're not paving streets, then you got real problems. All right, that's one of the few services that we have to do. We can't partner with, we can partner with Solano, we can get some equipment, that would be great. But the fact is we got 7 guys and they got to trim the hedges, they got to mow the lawns, they got to pick up the trash, they have to do all that wonderful grant money that we get. They're the ones that have to implement it. Here's the problem. You got 7 guys. They're picking up trash. They're cutting grass. They're trimming trees. We got 3 people doing road repair. We have a $5 million deficit in the maintenance that's required to go forward. We need to fix that. Thank you.
Okay, the next question, or the next questions order, will be Anthony Adams, Tom Alder, Michael Hudson, and then Alma Hernandez. And the question is as follows. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing, and how do you plan to remedy the large deficit in Suisun's current budget?
Thank you very much for that question. So we do have to ask the question how we got here. We didn't just wake up one day and this was here. You know, so Suisun City has a budget of $16 million for a population of 30,000 people. Now, to put it into perspective, Dixon has a population of 22 million people, about 2/3 of our size, and a budget of $22 million. So $6 more million for 8,000 less people. The city are similar size, Benicia. They have 30,000 people and a budget of $30 million, nearly double our budget. So first off, I want to be clear that Suisun City does not make the revenue that other cities make. So we can probably not provide the services that other cities provide. But how did we get to here, right? Suisun City's been around for over 150 years. So there had to be a reason why we got to this point where we are today. So what are we going to do to fix the budget problem? All the same things I've been saying before. We're going to plan for success. We're going to plan for an expansion of our housing variety types. We're going to try to bring in new families, people with disposable income, and businesses that want to invest in Suisun City. We have vacant land. We have people that want to build on them. Now what we need are people on the council that actually want to develop. There was a lot of no's before I came on council. I talked to a lot of developers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it to say yes. So number 1, we got to develop. Number 2, I know it has been said, we do have a budget deficit. We are not going to be able to grow out of this immediately. I am not happy about it. I own a home here and I work here. I don't like that our city is not in healthy financial shape. So we are going to have to do some cutting and some trimming. I promise to not do it quickly. We are going to do everything we can to retain all the staff that we can. And during that time, we're going to seek grants. We're going to seek other ways to get revenue through partnerships. But we got to grow, we got to cut, and we got to be more efficient with what we have. So we have people doing heroic efforts to get things done. We're going to have to continue that. So we're going to get through it, but it's going to take a little time. Thanks.
Okay, and then Tom Alder.
Okay, I'm here. Okay, yeah, I enjoyed Mr. Adams' speech, and like I say, he's been on the council for 2 years, and I haven't seen anything but yes votes from him and the mayor and the vice mayor, and it's rubber stamping, and they're not appropriately planning for this community. I agree, we need the development. We need to, the basic thing is we have to take care of our budget. We can't pass along to our citizens, to the kids. We can't do that. Cutting, yes, Mr. Adams and the other folks on the council have said yes. We need to cut the police department 38%. That means 7 persons. That means 5 patrol officers and 2 code enforcement persons. That's devastating. We don't have sufficient officers on the street right now. And we don't have adequate patrol for our city. And yet they're talking about cutting the police department by 38%, and on and on. And with public works, they're talking about 30% cut, and all the way down to the fire department, which they say they're only going to cut them 8%, and no persons will be lost from a job. I agree. We need to upgrade our city. There's no doubt about it. We need to put revenue into the city, and there's ways of doing that. And it's certainly not by cutting your police department. And it's certainly we need to go after more grants. We need to seek involvement with the county and the state. And by the way, as far as endorsements, I can't see that Mr. Adams has all of the endorsements of the mayors and the council people, because I know he doesn't have the endorsement of the sheriff, which I do. And so thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry, Michael, before you start, Mr. Adams, I have to ask that you don't show a reaction to what your other candidates are saying. And then Mr. Alder, I'd ask that you don't fully play on the words of your other candidates or mention past affiliation with things like that in order for everything to be respectful. So Michael, you could go now, sorry.
Question to ask about, am I unmuted? There we go. Okay. I think it's very valid to ask about how we are going to deal with the current fiscal situation. At the end of 2018, we had a $2.2 million surplus, which we used for our reserves. And we were spending $1.8 million in Measure S dollars. And those Measure S dollars, the community told us how we wanted to spend it. They had a priority list. All right. And that was supposed to elevate the city and be above and beyond. The problem is that we've taken a wrong turn. The city in the last 2 years has had a structural deficit, and right now it's at $5 million. And they're planning to use Measure S dollars to fill that. And then they're going to make some draconian cuts, like what Mr. Alder spoke about, the police cuts. They're going to devastate the city. What's important is, first of all, we need to put everything on the table. All things need to be on the table. We have to consider revenue and the ways we make money in the city. And we also need to consider how we spend money. And it's more than just cutting personnel. We have to look at the priorities that we have. That means before and after school programs have to go to the top of the list of not cutting. We need to keep those. We need to keep the senior center. We need to keep daycares. We need to keep Head Start and preschool. Those things are vital to our community. And keeping the safety, right now we're experiencing, by the city's own admission, a crime spike. And even with the reduced reporting in what's a crime nowadays, we're experiencing a crime spike. Now's not the time to cut the police department. So we need to look other places, and we need to look for creative ways to raise money. Thank you very much for your time.
Perfect.
Okay, Alma Hernandez.
Thank you so much. Most recently, one of the things that I've been doing is trying to understand what our city manager, Greg Folsom, has been updating our community about regarding our finances. One of the things that caught my attention was he was explaining to us that we currently have a structural deficit that really stems from redevelopment money ending in 2012. And since then, we have not had sustainable ways to bring money in or development that has been approved mindfully to help create the type of infrastructure that we need to keep money coming into our community. So one of the things that is important to me is being very clear about what it means to be transparent and accountable to our budget and the way that those dollar amounts are showing up on budget line items. For example, one of the things that I learned was that although on our line items right now, it looks like all of a sudden we funded our fire department a lot. I learned that as of 2017, we only had 2 full-time fire department members in our community serving almost 30,000 people. And that is not sustainable. And we cannot look at our budget and say that we are okay by reducing the amount of public services in order to be able to have a balanced budget. So those are the things that I think are important when when we start understanding the numbers and the story that it's telling as well. So what that means for me is that it's important to ensure that when we're actually budgeting, it makes sense to our community about what we're prioritizing, and that we're very clear about where the dollars are going and what it's actually funding. So one of the things when we talk about like ensuring that our public safety departments are well funded as best as we can, and to ensure that people are staffed, and ensuring that we have different ways to bring money from grants, from development, from looking at commercial estate, real estate that brings in higher tax dollars into our community, to getting housing here so that we have more people that can shop locally. You should be able to just walk downtown and be able to make purchases from the residents that are here. So those are just multifaceted ways that we can actually increase our dollars in, but also looking at our budget account.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. The order will be Tom Alder, Michael Hudson, Alma Hernandez, and then Anthony Adams. And the question is, if you are to become the next council member in Suisun City, how would you tackle the income inequality and homeless problem facing Suisun City?
Hi again, I got you. Regarding income and homelessness, and we just got through not too long back about having a conference. We've done a lot of studying about the homeless and what the needs are for the homeless, and the city is working on that. And first of all, you know, we've got to look at the homeless as being people without a home, not homeless people as they're referred to. Because they're human beings, and we need to be compassionate and caring about that. And we need to work with them in very intimate ways to get them help. And help, like one of the things that's happening is the police department has the social services, the mental health team working with the police. And that is great towards helping the homeless. And as far as the income end of it, we have a lot of housing in Suisun that is really programmed into the low-income area, and we are working, you know, hard to find places, and working with other cities and counties to get income to come in and to help with what's going on. We need to work together with the county and the state, and work with their programs. And we need to be upfront with what's happening. We need to be transparent. And we know that in Suisun, they have a little over 20 homeless people that have been identified. And we're working on with private organizations, with the county, with the state, to do everything that we can for them, and everything that we can for those that have low incomes, and getting them into the city and helping them out also. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, Michael Hudson.
There we go. I think homelessness is a huge issue. Let's talk about housing real quick. Low-income housing, Suisun City is full of low-income housing. It doesn't count on our RENA numbers. That's our regional housing allocation numbers that the state figures out in some bureaucrat's calculator. We have literally low-income housing. For the most part, if you look at the demographics, our housing is low-income housing for a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, that's a good thing, but it also hurts our property values. Building more low-income housing, I don't think we should return to Cherry Street. I don't think we should return to some of the areas that redevelopment did help us with once upon a time. Speaking of redevelopment, we can't continue to use redevelopment as an excuse for budget shortfalls and things like that. That's history, 12 years ago. Let's live today. The housing for homelessness, the county and the coordinated entry and things like that. They've picked Shelter Solano. They give all the money to Shelter Solano. Shelter Solano charges the city $34,000 for each bed. Suisun bought 2 of them. I wish I could sell housing to Suisun. But you could rent a house, a decent house for that amount and put 6 people in it. You could rent 2 houses actually. And you could provide them meals, and there's plenty of nonprofits out there. We did no shopping, none. We went right along with the herd mentality. How homelessness needs to be addressed on a personal level and compassionately. These are people, as Mr. Alder pointed out, and we need to treat them in a compassionate way, but we also need to treat them in an expeditious way. When a camp is formed, right now we are only cleaning up 1 camp per month. We have 3 huge active camps and 4 or 5 minor camps throughout the city. And these are health hazards to our city citizens.
Okay, Alma Hernandez.
Thank you. Currently, Suisun City is mandated to build more affordable housing by the state of California. So we are required to build more affordable housing. I think it's important that when we do build, though, that we're building in a social equitable way. That means that the housing is built near services that are available for people with more socioeconomic disparities, so that they're closer to our train station, our public transportation services, to grocery stores that might be in walking distance, for example. Another thing that I think is important when we think about homelessness is to remember to really humanize the experience of a person and what they've gone through to arrive to that space. So really talking about empathy. Most recently in one of the reports from our housing authority manager, she mentioned that every year they go and they count how many homeless individuals we have in our city. In January, she profiled 46 individuals in Suisun City who were residents of Suisun City who lost their home in Suisun City. These aren't individuals that are coming into our town from somewhere else. It's our own neighbors who got into a moment of time that they could not move forward with because we do not have enough preventative services. Meaning, if someone is struggling financial, we don't have services to really support them with financial consulting or financial advice, right? If they're looking for jobs, we just don't have enough robust systems to, if they lost their job, to get them job placement. If they need housing and don't know how to navigate the paperwork or how to attain access to it, that's something that we have really great people in our city helping with, but we need more and more partnerships with our community as well. So there's a couple of things. The other thing that's important to mention is that affordable housing means that it takes 30% of a person's salary to be able to pay for it. For many that are making minimum wage, that's a home that costs about $600 to $900. We don't have housing here enough that's around less than $1,000 for a family who is struggling.
Okay, Anthony Adams.
Yes, thank you. I want to be clear that us building affordable housing 30 years ago does not solve the housing problems of today. You guys get credit for that 30 years ago, but we got new problems today and we got to do something about it today. Now, we do have to learn from our mistakes in the past, and we cannot concentrate poverty. As I said before, I do have a master's degree in city and regional planning, and even the Housing and Urban Development, the federal agency, has stopped concentrating poverty. They no longer do Cabrini Greens where they have 100, 200 people of low income in one area. The solution, and again, I'm gonna say this again, listen to people's solutions when they answer these questions, not what they say the problems are, not what they want, but the solutions they propose. So what we're gonna do here in Suisun City is we're gonna pass an inclusionary housing ordinance. We've already discussed this on the council, and I believe that we do have the support for it. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna require every single housing development to put a percentage of that in an affordability category. And you won't be able to tell that this is an affordable housing unit. It's going to look just the same as every other one. But the way we're going to fund this is through the state. The state wants us to build affordable housing, as Mr. Hernandez said. More than that, they have money for us to do that. So they will pay the difference of these affordable housing units. It's going to be a beautiful, great location, not going to look like any of the affordable housing that we have now, but it's going to solve some of the problems that we have. So looking at income inequality, if you guys try to get a 1-bedroom, the youth on this call, it's $1,500 a month right now in Suisun City. This is not a San Francisco price. This is Suisun City. Even worse, if you try to get one, do you guys know what the vacancy rates are in Suisun City? 2% or less. 2% are vacant right now, and you got to compete with other people to pay $1,500. So what we have to do, we don't need to be building any more subdivisions anymore. We need to build communities where we have a variety of people living in, veterans, families, young workers, and retirees. We need to make sure we have a wealth of income, a wealth of job opportunities, and build this city into the 21st century. Thank you so much. And by the way, just one last thing, I am endorsed by Sheriff Ton Ferreira. I just talked to him on the phone last week. Thank you so much.
Okay, so the next question for the order, it would be Michael Hudson, Alma Hernandez, Anthony Adams, and Tom Alter. And the question is, given the fact that climate change is increasing the dry season and heat, Suisun City is more prone to wildfires. What measures would you take as a council member to address fire mitigation in and around Suisun City?
That's a great question, considering the fires that are around here. First of all, not many people know this, but the fire department is tasked with weed abatement. And that's something that they should be aggressively doing, especially when it comes to places like McCoy Creek and our fence lines by Walnut and Maple. We actually have the personnel now, so I mean, they should be out there doing weed abatement. Public Works also has to do that, but right now we're down to 7. We can barely keep the sprinklers going. I think that that's an important thing. So weed abatement is something that's directly in the fire department's purview, and they should be out there working on dangerously high weeds that could easily catch fire. We also have apparently a fire bug and several arsonists. The other thing is, I heard something about inclusionary housing. We actually have been practicing inclusionary housing in Suisun City for many years. This is something that we've been doing for a long time. So this is not a new, this might be a new policy per se, but like many of the other things that have been stated here, just because you didn't read it doesn't mean it didn't exist. There's many things, if you go back and you look at the records and you know the records, that you will find that we've actually done for many, many years.
I have to ask that you stay relevant to the question that I was just asking about fire mitigation and everything.
Okay, so that's definitely weed abatement and fire mitigation. That's definitely a fire department task. Thanks.
Okay, next up, Alma Hernandez.
Thank you so much. I think first of all, shout out to our fire department. I was able to go and visit recently, and I am just so impressed by the dedication and the heroism that they show every single day. Some of them not being able to go home for almost a month because they have to be on site. They can't even go home. Hearing stories about them not even being able to take their family outside of city limits, we have to stay on always 24/7. And so just a shout out to them because of all their work that they do. A couple of things for me that is important to shout out for them too is that we now have a fire marshal that is responsible for doing some investigation of what is causing some of the fires, because we understand the trends and actually then enforce our law around against some of those things. That's one of the key elements to ensuring that we're addressing the issues at its core and also having mitigating opportunities to be able to address them in a legal manner. The second thing that I also want to mention is that one of the things that they also need is, always being able to be staffed appropriately. That's so when they have opportunities to go do weed abatement, that would be wonderful. Currently, because of the recent fires and emergencies, we've just not had the staffing to be able to do some of that, or they're trying to navigate those pieces. And so just being able to be aware of some of the limits that we have and ensuring that we kind of look for increasing those levels. Most recently, I learned that our volunteer program had to change. As of 2015, 2016, the law in the state of California changed the way that volunteers could actually volunteer in a fire department. So now they require all this training that wasn't required before by the state. So I know that they're working on having a robust volunteer program, but it's really hard right now when people are not able to do that because of their full-time jobs or don't have the time to go do all that training. So those are areas that we need to continuously look to ensure that we can have fire personnel that is able to address those issues and continuously educating our community. I'm hearing some of the fireworks that are going on more recently. That is just not allowed. And one of the things, especially those coming up from out of
Okay, next up, Anthony Adams.
Wonderful question, and is currently very current as well. So how do we tackle the fires? Well, we have to hire a fire department. So as Mr. Fernandez said, prior to 2019, we had the largest volunteer fire department of a city our size in the entire state. And then the state came and changed the rules, and you could not have the minimal amount of training that you had and be a volunteer firefighter anymore. So we had to upgrade the fire department. Prior to 2019, we had one paid staff member per vehicle. Now we have two. We are still the only city in all of Solano County that does not have a full-time fire department. So I want to say that we still need more, but what we do have is expensive. It's true, it costs money for a fire department. But I tell you what, downtown almost burned down like 2 months ago. And it was our firefighters on our engine, on our ladder hose that saved those homes. It was not Fairfield, it was not Vallejo, it was not Dixon, it was us. And it's because we had the proper training and the proper equipment. So what we've done in the past few years, they got a wildfire engine. So whenever something outside of the city limits, for instance, the one by the train station went off, they had a wildfire engine to help put that out. As Mr. Hernandez says, we've also hired a fire marshal. It's the first time we've had one since the 90s. We have not done fire inspections on businesses since the 90s. We had not changed our fire panels on all of our public buildings since the 90s. They all had to be replaced because they weren't having fire inspections done. So how are we going to do the inspections if we don't have a fire marshal? And what that fire marshal is doing now, and Mr. Hudson mentioned it, is we have to go and do weed abatement. Well, now we have the personnel to do that. We are doing weed abatement. We are sending out fines to people. We've gotten more fines for weed abatement in the past couple of years than we've gotten in a decade. And because of those fire inspections, we've actually got dozens of new business licenses as well, because we have to go do inspections of them. We find out they have a license. That's more revenue that the fire department is bringing into Suisun City. So I'm very proud of them, and we're going to keep moving forward to make sure we protect our city. Thank you.
Okay, and then Tom Alder. You're on mute still.
Again, do you have me now?
Yeah, we have you now.
Oh, great. Thanks. That's a great question because, I love our fire department. I've been around it for 50-something years. I've watched it grow. I've watched the history of our fire department. I've seen the volunteers and the great, great job they do. And right now I'm checking into the law as to the volunteers and what type of training they need and whether or not it is state mandated. Because there is some question about that, because that's the reason that the fire chief and the mayor and Mr. Adams changed the complex of the fire department tasks and responsibilities is because of state law. So I need to find out about that, because they have hired 7 to 8 people in the last 18 months. And that's, when I read the minutes of the council, it says that basically they said, oh, well, we need to go from a volunteer to a full-time staffing. And that's great if you have the money. But in the comments from the mayor and the other council members, they state, well, we don't know where the revenues are coming from. That's ridiculous. You can't put out $1.5 million, $2 million project out there to bring in more firefighters when you don't have the money. We need to look at alternative ways of taking care of that deficit. I love the idea of the fire marshal, but like I say, 2 years ago, I think we had something like we had 60 volunteers, and now, according to the chief, we have 17. So something must be addressed when it comes to the fire and the fire department services, as well as the police department services. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next question. The order will be Alma Hernandez, Anthony Adams, Tom Alder, and then Michael Hudson. And the question is, can we assure that you will put justice and lawfulness above all else, and say that you will do everything you can to keep us a safe community?
Absolutely. Yes. We'll start there. Most recently, for any of those who were able to assist the Community Policing Forum, I was one of the individuals that went up to advocate to ensure that we had some additional items that were taking place addressed. And it's one of the pieces that is important, that when you're seeing something that you're not thinking this is the correct way to move forward, and you're looking for transparency and accountability from any type of justice organization, that you walk up and actually say, hey, I think there's something wrong here. Can we take a look at it? And out of that, one of the most recent things that we received from our police department, for example, is a report that provided answers to some of the questions that we were addressing, right? One of the things that we look for also is ensuring that any justice department group is representative of the community that it serves, that it's ensuring that it's diverse, that it's ensuring that it's listening to its citizens, that it has a good relationship with its citizens, so it understands who is the community members that it's supporting. So transparency and accountability is extremely important for me in regards to those areas. The other thing that I bring to the table is just advocacy in regards to anything that has to do with a disparity, right? So remember, my background's around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I look for those things in any way, like if it's socioeconomic disparity, is it because someone doesn't have a right resource available and there's something we can do? I even had someone give me a call and say, hey, I can't even pay my water bill and I don't know how to navigate that. And I spoke at back council and I said, you know what, I don't think our system's in place just to help someone navigate that process is transparent or easy to understand. What can we do? And so being able to voice out anything that you have a concern about or an issue that you're seeing that's not right, that's not how people should be treated, or it's something unjust, to always be able to put it at the forefront and asking for accountability from others. So I think that those are important pieces that I bring to the table. It's always been who I am. It's who I'll continue to be. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Anthony Adams.
Yes, thank you. So justice and lawfulness. So those are actually kind of varying terms. There's justice, equity, and what's just to one person is not necessarily just to another. But lawfulness is something that's very important. And I do want to make it clear that I support the freedom of speech and the right to protest, especially after what's been happening over the past few months. I also want to make it very clear that we are going to prosecute rioters. We are not going to be destructing public property in the name of someone else. But you can say all you want, and you can have all your support for any movement that you want, and we should never, ever take that away. Now, the police have a tough job. Mr. Alder knows this. He was the police chief for many, many years. And through the years, we've actually been giving them more and more tasks to do. They have to do domestic violence. They have to do homeless intervention. They have to deal with people who are suicidal. And then they got to deal with murderers and traffic as well, people who are dealing drugs. This is not an easy job. So we have to give them the resources they need. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to grow the police department to some amazingly high number. We do need more police, don't get me wrong. But what they need is resources. They need help with issues on domestic violence. They need people to come that can go and talk and intervene with these people so they don't have to do everything. When they're going to homeless camps, they need to make sure they have the resources with them so they aren't the front line all the time. We need to make sure that the police are reinforcing the laws, not dealing with every societal issue they have there. So I want to make sure that we give them the resources when we grow that we can protect the community and have a lawful and just Suisun City. And part of that is that our police department is representing our city. We need to make sure that our demographics and our racial makeup of the police department are in line with Suisun City, which is one of the most diverse cities in the entire nation. I think we're ranked the third most diverse city in the entire nation just a couple years ago, and we have to make sure that our police department and fire department represent that. Thank you.
Okay. Tom Alder.
I'm unmuted now. Yeah, justice and law enforcement, that's been my thing for 60 years. I've served the public for 60 years. And better than, 40 years of it was in law enforcement and protection and security of our citizens. And all I can say is I served as a police chief for 25 years, and I left with the same number of law enforcement personnel back in 1993 as they have in 2020. That's disgusting. And talking to the council and the chief, we found out that we don't have the resources that we need in the police department. We don't have the youth services person that I had to take care of some of the youth concerns. We don't have the code enforcement people that we need, and certainly we don't have the officers on the street. We have maybe 2 officers at one time. That is very unsafe, and it has a libelous background to it. And we do need help because we are bare bones, and they're putting that police chief in a position of a no-win situation. And when it comes to, I've checked the diversity of the city, and the police chief is doing everything within his means to keep his police department under those conditions in a correct way. And law and order, I believe, like the rest of our people, that you know, we can't. The First Amendment says we have the right to speak, we have the right to protest, but we don't have the right to be violent about it. We don't have the right to commit crimes involving that. And I think that law and order is really, really needed, and we need to have a handle on it. And by reducing the police staffing, that's not getting a handle on it. It's taking away from the police. It's defunding the police. Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, Michael Hudson.
Public safety is one of the foundational principles that we have as a general law city in the state of California. And it's important to remember that one of the few things that everyone will agree to, that if my city doesn't keep me safe, then I don't know why I'm here. Why am I in this particular city? A city, that's one of the foundational principles. And public safety starts with youth. It starts with school resource officers. It starts with having a good relationship and leadership and involved community service officers. It starts with outreach from the police department. That's the first start. The policeman you know keeps you safe. The policeman you don't know, there's, you know, sometimes there's suspicion there. And, you know, we have to support our police. We have to support our officers. Right now, according to Chief Vincent, our demographic matches our hiring practices, at least in the fire department. And I know that that's been set as a goal for the police department that they haven't attained yet. Diversity is important, but diversity for diversity's sake is not important. So, and I think that they have the spirit of that down. Now, when it comes to public safety, your budget is your priorities. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Your priorities are your budget, right? Turning it exactly around. What you cut is what's not important to you. What you promote and what you hire is what is important to you. So what are you hiring? What are you firing? I think that that's what you have to look at. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll now be moving on to another question. The order will be Anthony Adams, Tom Alder, Michael Hudson, and then Alma Hernandez. And the question is, what actions need to be taken to promote safety in Suisun City while respecting the civil rights and dignity of every person in the community? How do you plan to involve the residents in the decision-making process of our town?
All right, public inclusion. So, you know, I've been on the council since 2019, and I was fortunate to get in that position because we got a new mayor, Lori Wilson. And one of the promises she made when elected was to make sure that the community was involved in the decision-making process. And to that end, she created 3 new committees. One was a lighting and landscaping committee. The other one was the climate and environment committee, which Alma and I serve on. And the other is the public safety committee, citizens advisory committee. So what that does is we have annually a policing report that says what our goals are going to be, how we're going to get there, and what the progress is. And that is reviewed by the Public Safety Committee. Furthermore, they have an emergency response plan, an ERP. So the Public Safety Committee helped to develop that plan. Furthermore, they're part of something called a CERT team. So a CERT team is a community emergency response team. So let's say there is a fire, let's say there's an earthquake, let's say there's a terrorist attack. There's someone in that community that people know to go to that has all the information and can pass out the necessary resources. So having the community be involved in safety is essential. We can't just have, as Mr. Alder said, there are 2 or 3 police at any given time in the city. We need the community to be involved in here. We need people like volunteers in policing, the VIPs. We need neighborhood watch. We need all hands on deck to protect Suisun City. Now, luckily, our crime rate is not super high. We are less than Fairfield as far as crime rate. We're a little bit worse than Vacaville, but not so bad. So we're not in a dire position right now. And further, there have been no public talks about cutting any more police department staff. There have been conversations in closed sessions about how that we can fill budget gap. But I want to be clear to everyone listening right now, there has never been one public word said about cutting 7 police, not one. So I'm wondering where that information is coming from and the veracity of that information, because no one is talking about cutting the police department that much. Thank you so much.
Okay, next up we have Tom Alder.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Yeah, safety is very, very vital to our city. And yeah, it's been made known at several of the meetings talking about what the projections are and what the situation is as far as the budget is concerned. And yes, it has been brought up. And I particularly spoke with the city manager about a few weeks ago, and he said, yes, you know, we have 7 to 9 police officer positions that are not filled, and we're not going to fill them. And that was the thrust of it. And now the proposed version from the council is that we're going to lose 7 people in the police department. And I've just mentioned before, that's not a safe thing. When I started out, we had the neighborhood watch. We had all the resources. We had youth services. We had the kids involved. We had the cadets. We had the reserves. We had community night out. We had community safety citizen committee. We had lots of stuff going on as far as the community involved. Now they don't have the staffing to do any of that. They don't have youth services. They don't have the drug enforcement. They don't have officers for traffic safety. And I could go on, and that's where the council has not kept up on it. And like I say, a lot of things have happened in 2 years with this new person as the mayor. And I say that we need to look at that very, very closely, because they're putting the city in dire straits, and they're putting our community as we got to raise taxes. I think there's a better way of doing it, and it needs to be transparently communicated. Thank you very much.
Okay, Michael Hudson.
I think that's a great question, especially with the protests that are going on. And, you know, I think you have to respect everyone's civil rights. I think that those were fought for rights from the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, through all the way through the Constitution. We need to be constitutionally led people. And I think that that's just vital. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm a strong supporter of the First Amendment. I think it's important to give people a voice. Now, it's been talked about committees. Committees don't actually equal inclusion. It doesn't, more importantly, committees don't mean you're listening. You could still be tone deaf without listening. You could still go off on your own little tangent, on your own little spirit journey, whatever you want to call it, without listening to people. There's a lot of people. The top 6 identified priorities in Measure S were public safety, police department, or dispatch, or youth diversion programs. And those have been left on the wayside. And the city has just plowed through with an agenda. And they've believed things that just aren't true. It's important that you check with the source. Make sure what you're saying is true, because there's going to be somebody like me that comes and can research it for himself. You've been in office. Whatever problems you're bringing up, they're your problems now. So I think that you got to own that. Thank you.
Okay, and then we have Alma Hernandez.
Thank you. I also put at the forefront civil liberties, right? I want everyone to feel that their rights are always being respected, because they need to be. And so that's at the forefront of everything that we need to be able to think through in regards to any plans that we come up, or how we we treat the members in our community. In regards to public safety, here's my concern at the forefront right now because of the most recent fires and the recent evacuations that we saw where the Nelson Community Center became a place where members of residents of Fairfield were evacuated to. I do not believe that we are ready for a national or a natural disaster. If we have an earthquake, I just do not believe that we're ready. We don't have the emergency response system completely in place. We do not have the infrastructure yet there. And one of the things that was highlighted in the most recent meetings with our department heads was that that's resonating too. We all need to look towards what will happen if we are in dire situations. So things that I think that are important is to ensure that we're creating a robust community emergency response team that is our citizens that become trained during an emergency of how to step in and respond. That way our first responders are dealing with life and death situations. My fear is what if we don't have, water or things like that are available in an emergency situation, what do we do? So having other plans with community partners throughout Solano County to ensure that we have mutual aid available at all times, but also being sustainable for ourselves, ensuring that we have strategic plans that are timely, that we're looking forward to, that are accountable, like we're looking for where are we in projects in regards to being able to ensure that we are providing public safety to our residents and that our residents know what they are. Another thing that I brought up at council is during an emergency, one of the things that is important for me is to ensure that people that speak different languages have access to the information that is most important, because we cannot have our dispatchers inundated with calls. We need to be able to provide information for people to be able to navigate an emergency with themselves with having relevant information. So
Okay, so we will now be moving on to the last question, and the order will be Tom Alder, Michael Hudson, Alma Hernandez, and Anthony Adams. And the last question is as follows. The recent pandemic has shown that a lot of children have trouble learning or working at home. However, a lot of children also have had issues during normal schooling as well. Do you believe that there should be more programs for children, especially those that are neurodivergent, to receive educational help? If so, what are your plans to help?
Okay, I'm on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, our kids are a great treasure and they need to be taken care of. And we have had a crisis, a pandemic, and the kids have suffered. It's time that we look forward and get the kids back into school in a safe and healthy manner. Because, the teachers and the kids are important, but they the distance learning is very good, but it's not 100%. Now, our kids need that personal touch, that personal communication with the teacher. It's very, very important that they communicate one-on-one, but in a person-to-person setting. And, we're working with the health department as far as the COVID is concerned. We're working with the school district. We're working with the state. We're working with the federal government. And we're doing everything with our school board, to see the status of the state, being read now. And when our kids can get back into school. But it's important because the parents need that help as well as the kids. The parents have to go to work. They have many challenges. And, having their kids in school is very, very important. But health and safety is also extremely important. So I go along with the experts on what they say we should be doing. That would be reasonable. But getting our kids back into school, getting businesses open and done so in a safe and healthy manner would be the way that I would approach it. And I would approach partnership with all local entities and all state and federal government entities. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Michael Hudson.
I think it's extremely challenging for some children to learn in this environment. It's something completely new and it's going to take some getting used to. And we need to help in any way we possibly can to make sure the youth can pick up the lessons that they have, turn them in, and that they're getting at least as good or better an education than they were getting. And that means we need to partner with the school district and the state and federal, just like Mr. Alder said. And we also need to make sure that we have our before and after school programs. We need to make sure that those are hard coded into our priorities and into our budget. Head Start and preschool need to be there. Those are very, very important. We need to have tutoring, and we need to give kids the space to do this. All these things, though, are dependent upon the budget. If you don't have a balanced budget, you don't have preschool, before and after school, daycare. You don't have partnering with the school district. You have nothing to bring to the table. You have to do these things. These are quality of life, and these are quality of our community. Now, more than that, though, you cannot just blame it on the fire department, or you can't blame it on just redevelopment, or we didn't make enough sales tax. Hey, this is something we've had for many years in Suisun City, before and after school programs. We need to just continue to make sure that those happen. We spend money on the things we can afford. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Alma Hernandez.
Thank you. I think our children are so precious, and they need to be supported during this pandemic, specifically around social emotional learning. And what that means is that because of the situations that they're in, their needs are just changing and there are difference. We want to be cognizant of that as well, and what resources that we can be able to provide to support parents who are supporting their children, and working with our schools to be able to do so as well. Currently, one of the things that I'm working on is I belong to the Solano County Library Foundation Board, and we are currently fundraising money to be able to pay for Wi-Fi hotspots that students can check out from the library. So being able to have Wi-Fi at home instead of looking for the nearest restaurant or place that has Wi-Fi is really important. Suisun City currently, our recreational parks and marina center department have worked to create centers at Nelson Community Center where students can come and also attain Wi-Fi there, and they can sign up for, and their parents can participate. So there's information that's coming around that. So there is currently things that are taking place. In regards to child welfare, one of the things that I did was I reached out to Chief Aaron Broth and asked him if he would collaborate with me as president of the Solano Hispanic Chamber and with the Fairfield Suisun Chamber to bring a virtual community forum to help parents understand things or get information out around child abuse, domestic abuse, and even human trafficking, because these are real issues that are happening during the pandemic that we need to be able to raise awareness about so people know how to navigate those issues and getting information out to community. So that's a project I'm currently working on. Another thing that I think is important when we think about children is that their safety, is that they have a place to live. So working with their parents to ensure that they have access to resources to pay their rent or access to food, which is another component to ensure that the child, when they're at home and distance from everything, can still be sustained in a healthy way. So those are things I'm currently working on, and will continue to bring forth more projects to Suisun City to help our children. Thank you.
Okay, and then Anthony Adams.
So I'm a product of the public education system. My family grew up very, very poor. Neither of them graduated from college. My mom on minimum wage. My dad started his own business when I was young. And it was through education that I was able to pull me and my family out of poverty. I'm now in the position right now where I can help the ones that I love with the income that I make. And I 100% believe that education is the road to personal success. So what have we done in Suisun City to help move this forward? Well, in the past 2 years, our after-school program has nearly doubled. This is super important. Over half of our residents commute outside of Suisun City. So what happens to these children when their parents get off of work and they're still home for 2 or 3 hours after school? Well, now we have after-school programs that can help enrich them. They can have extra help on their classes and on their certain subjects that they need help on, and it gives them the resources to move ahead, and also gives the parents the resources they need to get their kids ahead as well. Just as an aside on a policy note, I do believe in free public education all the way through college. Very many countries offer this: Germany, Sweden, the UK. I've known many people from Europe and talked to them about this. The stress that the youth are going to go through when you go to college and you have to take out tens of thousands of dollars in personal loans and then work as an indentured servant for years and years to pay these back is something that other people in other countries do not have to do. So I'm hoping that we can come together as a country and invest in the education of our youth so we can grow skills and move this country forward as well. So just to underline it all, I believe in public education. We have got to invest in it. And I think it's the only thing that's going to bring people who currently have a lack of opportunity to give them more opportunity and even the playing field for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, and as that was the last question, we will now be hearing the closing statements, which is again 3 minutes long. The order will be Michael Hudson, Alma Hernandez, Anthony Adams, and Tom Alder.
I want to thank the Library Foundation, and I want to thank the Youth Commission and all the partners that have put this on for today. I've been pleased to see how well it's run, and I think you guys should give yourself a hand. You've done a great job. So I'm running for Suisun City Council because I think the city's headed for an iceberg. I see an iceberg in our future. We have a huge deficit. We have a structural deficit, which means it only gets worse every year. We have a deficit in infrastructure when it comes to roads and streets. We owe our youth better programs. We owe our community a senior center that's functioning, and we owe our community a business community that's thriving. We need to thrive, not just survive, not just get by. We need to stop giving away things. We need to stop change is great, but change for change's sake is not great. We can believe a lot of things about state mandates and things like that, but state mandates have never worked in Suisun City's favor. Let me repeat that. State mandates don't work for Suisun City. The arena numbers come out and they say we have to build so many houses. They have no teeth, they can't force us to, but they say that. That's the state. The state comes down and says we need certain qualifications for our fire department. Yet there are 5 fire departments in Solano County that operate with just the way we did as a volunteer organization. We have a few paid people that are experts and they provide leadership and direction, and we had 4 of them when I left council. And when I asked Chief Minson how many we need, he wants to have 4 per truck, per vehicle, per call. We can't do that. We don't have the budget. If the state's willing to pay for something, there's a well-known law in the state that says if the state doesn't pay for it, then it is an unenforceable, it's an unfunded mandate, and they can't enforce it. We've fallen for this mandate, and we need to draw back from that. It's important to have a balanced budget. Balanced budgets mean we get all the programs, all the things that we need to operate as a city. If we don't have a balanced budget, then we have to cut things. And we have to cut things that aren't necessarily what the citizens want. We need to listen to our citizens about what the priorities they set out for us. Back in 2017, how would you spend a $1.8 million, went out and asked what the priorities of the community were. Police and crime suppression and dispatch rose to the top of that list. We need to honor those. If we ask a question, we got to be willing to take the answer. If the citizens give us the priorities.
I'm sorry, time's up. Okay, and then next up, Alma Hernandez.
Well, thank you so much. Once again, I was really excited to be here with all of you today and just being able to engage. I think this is so important. For me, community engagement is a key piece of my platform because I think that the more we get people to be able to listen to what's going on in the city and actually get to know their city leaders, it gives them an opportunity to find ways to also get involved because you know what? In order to help move Suisun City forward, we're going to need everyone's help and we're going to need so many people to be able to also believe in the vision that we have for a better Suisun City. One of the things that I just want to highlight about my experience with you today is just, I really enjoyed the questions that we received. And I hope that you were able to see that for me, things that are really important are community. It's really important about our local economy. And it's really important about just engagement with people, right? And also how decisions are made, ensuring that the decisions that we're making are sustainable long-term, not just in the moment and not just to make our papers look a certain way, not look a certain way, but rather just simply have a way to ensure that there's transparency and accountability in what we're presenting to community. So that's really important to me because that's what's key to able to have any community be well informed. A couple of things that are really important to me is also being able to just share that one of the things that I bring to the table is just all these community partnerships. I'm endorsed by members of our community that are at local, regional, and state level. And what that means is that with that, it brings partnerships to be able to help Suisun City be at the table with decision makers that are changing policy that will affect us. And that's important to be trusted in these positions and these roles, to be able to share with them, look, Suisun City needs this, or how can you help us think through different strategies? I like to bring strategic thinkers into the room because I think it's important to be able to hear different voices in order to be able to move our community forward and to have people feel included as well. One of the things that's important for me, and it's one of the goals that I have, is to uplift our current strategic plan. So we have a strategic plan that's put in place from 2020 to 2025, and it's going to require work. And I'm one of these people that actually work every single day to ensure that we're bringing movement forward. So sitting with department heads and learning from them, sitting with our public safety departments and understanding what they need to ensure that we're bringing that conversation when we're thinking about budgets, and looking at our budget specifically in a way that we need to fix our structural deficit. We need to be able to ensure that the things that we're doing are ensuring sustainability, and the decisions that we're making put first what our priorities are in the moment to ensure public safety and public needs are being met, but also looking for different ways to bring money in and having strategic partners to do so. So one of the things that I just want to reshare again is my love for the community, that I'm ready to work for Suisun City and to elevate the voices and the needs that I hear are relevant to our members, and to work for a way to move Suisun City forward. Thank you.
Okay, Anthony Adams.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank the Suisun City Youth Commission and also Suisun City Public Library for putting this on, as well as my fellow candidates, Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Alder, Mr. Hudson. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to have this very important debate. Now, with all due respect to the previous speaker, Mr. Hudson, I do not believe that shirking our state responsibilities on housing and other things is a recipe for success. I don't think hiding and fighting the state is the solution to move Suisun City forward. They're the ones with the resources. They're the ones that have the investment capital that we can use to move Suisun City forward. They're the ones that supply the state gas tax dollars. They're the ones that supply housing dollars. They're the ones that supply other transportation dollars, such as the ones that we could use to improve the train station or the roads downtown. So, you know, I have been on the council for the past 2 years, and there's some successes that I want to mention now that I have a little bit of time. We hired the city's first finance director in recent memory. Before, we just had some people who had admin overview, but we did not have a finance director for a city of 30,000 people. As I stated before, we did not have a fire marshal since the 1990s. We've expanded our after school and our summer programs. We've started the Climate Environment Committee, and now we're working on a sea level rise action plan with real projects that we can seek regional funding for to have real solutions into the city. We're contracting for development on parcels in the city, the one by the post office and the one across the street from Walmart on the east side. We're contracting with them right now. We've permitted 88 new housing developments, high quality market rate units that are going to help with disposable income in our city. We actually have more development applications in the past 2 years than we've had in the past 10 years. And that's because we are open. We have open eyes, open mind, and open heart. And we're looking to move Suisun City forward into the 21st century. So to end on this, I'm action-oriented, solutions-based, and I think it's the partnerships that are going to move Suisun City forward. I think I have the education, the experience, and the enthusiasm to bring all the pieces together. I have project delivery experience, which says I know how to identify problems, seek the funding for them, and get this thing done. I'm a hard worker, and I'm trusted by nearly every elected official in Solano County that I've met. This goes from the regional level as well to Supervisor Spearing. So, you know, Suisun City's at a crossroads here, and we have to ask ourselves, are we going to move Suisun City forward, or are we going to move it back? And I think there's only one answer that's going to solve the problems of Suisun City. Thank you very much.
Okay, and lastly, we have Tom Alder.
Well, thank you very much. And you guys did a great job. I want to thank the youth for putting on this program. And thanks to the library people that also participated in it and on it. You deserve a pat on the back. We appreciate that. We need to be transparent. We need to be open and honest about what's going on in our community, because it is our community. I watched it for 60-something years. I've been a resident for over 50, and I know the workings of this city. And right now, the city is not on the right track, and it needs to really dig down into what's going on financially and what the citizens want versus what the council people are pushing. I agree with Mr. Hudson. You know, we are at the iceberg. We all want 1/8 up on top and 7/8 below. We need to look into that. We need to have better contact with our youth, with our senior citizens. We need to thrive. We need to involve the community in what we're doing. It's not just what the mayor or whoever else is. It's what the community wants. We need to ask them. We need to be honest and open and ask them. And I agree that state mandates, you know, put out a lot of pressure on the cities, but state mandates are state mandates, but they don't want to reimburse you for them unless you do it the way that they want to, which in a lot of situations like the fire department and the other cities in the county, as far as volunteer fire departments, is that a mandate or is that just at the city's discretion? We'll find out on that. We need that balanced budget. We need the citizens to be involved. And, you know, you guys are great. And, you know, I'd like to have more of this, more involvement, get the kids involved with law enforcement. That's vital to the community. It's vital to the kids. And so we don't want to leave that you know, the red, as we are now, between $5 and $2 million. We don't want to leave that to our kids. We need to put forth the leadership to get us out of that situation. We've been around for a lot of years and we've done a lot of things and we've had a lot of progress. It's just been the last couple of years that this council has really gone astray and has started the fire department a full-time program, putting the city in a $2 million hole. And the council's response is, well, we'll see where we can get the money. And that's before they looked at you know, the cost factor and how it was going to impact the citizens. They just said, go ahead and do it. And that is wrong. And I'd like to, again, thank you. And you've done a great job. And I really respect you. And this may not have been my brightest week, but, you know, I had back surgery this week and I buried my brother yesterday.
Okay, before we all log off, I would like to thank all the candidates for being here and their statements. I wish you all the best of luck. Next, I would like to thank the Suisun City Library for hosting the Zoom and the help in making this event possible. As well as our live audience, thank you for attending the forum and being respectful to not only myself, but the candidates. And then to those of you who are watching this recording, thank you for taking the time to view who you are voting for and for caring for the community. I'm sure that this is difficult for all of us with the recent pandemic and having everything online opposed to in person, but I'm grateful to all of you for allowing this event to run smoothly. I hope you all enjoyed the rest of your day, and with that being said, this concludes our virtual forum for the Suisun City City Council race.
Thank you.
I just want to say good job, you guys. Good job. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, is there anything that, oh, there's still people here, and Matthew left.
think we're good.
Okay, so we're all good.
Yeah, we're good. Let's go. Enjoy your day.
All right.
Okay, thank you guys for hosting.
Good job, guys. Thank you so much. You
Yes.
did a great
Incredible.
job.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Hey, guys.
Do I just stop the recording
Yeah,
now?
you can, oh, wait, yeah, save the recording or whatever. And how do we do it?
It says, do you want to stop cloud recording? If yes, you will receive an email notification when the cloud recording is ready. So
Perfect. Let's